Homesickness is really defined as anything that, it's kind of the natural response to change or to being in an unfamiliar environment. Homesickness is something that produces a lot of stress and sometimes anxiety in people. So again, homesickness is a natural response to being in an unfamiliar environment. It's not even a disorder. It's just, maybe condition is the right word, but it's a feeling.
It's a feeling.
Yeah,
Okay.
being homesick it's a feeling that we get when we are out of our comfort zone. So coming to college for many students, it's brand new. It's not home. It can take several weeks or several months for students to really feel like this is their home away from home. And so again, homesickness is a feeling that people get when they are in an environment that's brand new or unfamiliar. Adjusting to a new environment. A lot of times students that have come to Wartburg have not ever left home before, and so definitely then they get that homesickness feeling when they're away from home. It's also missing what's familiar, so that's that feeling of, you're missing what's familiar. You're missing your bedroom, you're missing your own bed, you're missing being able to go home from school and talk to your parents about your day, you're missing your friends from home. And so just again, so what causes the homesickness is being in this new environment. And so then for international students, it can be, obviously you're farther away from home than most of our students here at Wartburg. Cultural differences, I think, can trigger some of that homesick feeling because it's not familiar. It can take several weeks or several months. Sometimes we talk to students, and after one session, after they've talked about that nagging feeling that they've had of feeling homesick, sometimes they will feel better. September and October, basically that whole first term is when we see the majority of our students that are feeling homesick. And so it's our hope that after time passes that then they start to feel better, especially after getting more familiar with the campus, maybe getting more involved. The first month or month and a half that students are here is a pretty crucial time in developing relationships and to feeling connected to the campus and to the environment. And so it's a critical time for developing those relationships. And so we encourage students to, if they can, get out of your room, get out of their room and join an organization or try to eat meals with other students to really try to cultivate some friendships. Because unfortunately, sometimes the response sometimes a person's response to feeling homesick is to isolate themselves, and it's to spend a lot of time alone and not to get out. And maybe sometimes it's not even eating, or it's not sleeping, or they're sleeping all of the time. Sometimes people will engage in maybe unhealthy coping skills, such as drinking, binge drinking. And so all of those things, avoiding social situations, binge drinking, sleeping a lot and not getting involved, those are all things that maybe can make a student feel worse and maybe feel more homesick. And so when we talk to students, we really try to talk to them about using some healthy coping skills and trying to brainstorm some ways that they can feel a little more involved. Or, where are some places on campus that you do feel comfortable? Where could you go to try to meet people? And so those are things that we encourage students to do. Talk to people from home, but maybe especially if a student lives very close to campus, one thing we encourage them to do is to maybe not go home for the first couple weeks. That's something that we talk about. It's something that we read in the research about homesickness is and again, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for everybody. But sometimes if a student goes home and they're feeling homesick, sometimes that makes it worse, because then they're reminded of all of those things that are familiar, and they're back in their real safe place. And then sometimes they don't want to come back, or it makes it that much more difficult to come back. And so, we encourage students to give it a couple weeks before they make that first visit home, just so that they can build up more of a sense of independence and really get start to feel comfortable here. And plus, like I said, that first month or month and a half of school is a real critical time for students to be forming relationships and kind of to find their place and to find where they fit. And so if students are going home on the weekends, they may miss an opportunity to feel connected. It's better to not isolate yourself, absolutely, to get out there and to try to get involved, and to also try to avoid going home if you can for those first couple weeks. It sounds kind of harsh, I know, because what do we want to do when we feel homesick? We want to run back to what was safe and what was familiar, but I think sometimes we can miss an opportunity for growth. Whether home is 15 miles away or 1,500 miles away, you're really missing what is familiar to you. Because coming to college, you have to create kind of your home away from home, and you're learning different ways to manage your time on your own. You're learning to take care of yourself. The whole routine is very different, and so there's so many things that are new and unfamiliar that it can create some real just people to feel very, very uncomfortable. Well, worst case scenario is sometimes we find that students that are feeling homesick, that feeling homesick could turn into a depressive episode if it's left untreated, or if you're not talking about feeling homesick, or if you're not getting out there to get yourself involved. That is definitely the worst case scenario, and we've seen that happen. Again, isolating yourself, spending time alone in your room, and thinking of home all the time is maybe not the healthiest way to cope. And so sometimes, because this ages 18 to 24 is when we see a spike in mental health concerns anyway. And so especially if you have a student that's coming to campus that has a history of depression or anxiety, and then maybe they think that they're feeling better, but they come to college and the change or the transition then unfortunately could trigger a depressive episode again. So that's worst case scenario. Yeah. But again, more often than not, it takes several weeks or a couple months to really get used to the routine and to find your place. Most students that are homesick find ways to manage it and to feel better. I think we always are going to miss home, but it's good to learn how to manage being away from home as well. It's very healthy. We encourage students to bring pictures from home, of course, and hang those up. With technology, I think it's nice that you can Skype or FaceTime, right, with people from home, and so that's nice. But I think that it's important to bring things that are meaningful to you from home, maybe that don't take up a lot of space, of course, because your dorms are kind of small. But to bring things from home that are familiar, and have those hanging up in your room for sure. Another thing I encourage students to do is, within the first couple weeks, really find a couple things about college that you really like and that you enjoy, and write those things down and keep them close by. Keep them on your nightstand, keep them on your desk, carry them in your planner. And so when you're feeling down or feeling homesick, you can look at those things that you do like, because so often when we're feeling homesick, we can feel very negative about the place that we're in. We can feel negative about the environment that we're in. And so I think it's good to have a reminder of the good things, of the things that we do like about college. When we talk about homesickness, we're also talking about not feeling attached to where we are at. And so research shows that feeling connected in college is plays a very important role in being successful. And so the more connected you feel, research shows the more successful you're going to feel, or the more successful you're going to be, and the more comfortable you're going to be. In any environment, we start to create an emotional attachment. If you think about your bedroom, I think you have an emotion. We have an emotional attachment to our bedroom, or we have an emotional attachment to maybe the front porch at home, because that's a place that you could sit and you could reflect and feel, and feel peaceful. And so it's important to have an emotional attachment as well to a place on campus. And that's why roommate conflicts can be very difficult and can be kind of detrimental to those that are feeling homesick, because if a person is homesick and they don't feel like they have an emotional attachment to their room, it can make it really hard to function on campus and to be to function as a college student. So, I think some people find an emotional attachment like to the chapel, for example, or to the Lily reflection room. Finding a safe place on campus, finding a place that you feel emotionally connected, but then also creating connections, creating attachments to other people, to friends, to other people on campus. Is very, very important. Feeling connected, feeling like you belong, so feeling connected to an organization, or your job, or even your classes. I think in general, exercise, we know exercise is very good for us. It's good for our stress level, and it's good for our health. And so overall, just exercising is a really good coping skill. But definitely, if you can be I know that there are intramural sports on campus, and so if there's something, even if you're not directly involved in one of the sports on campus, there are those opportunities, to take advantage of, or other organizations on campus that you might feel connected to, whether it's going to even like going to Yuki on Wednesday nights. There are some students that feel very emotionally connected to that. And even doing some of the events that ETK puts on. Those are all opportunities to get to know other people, and so getting involved in with the opportunities that are offered on campus. But definitely, sports is good, and those intramurals. Well, I think that if you can talk to your friends or your roommates about feeling homesick, that would be a good thing. Not everybody's comfortable coming to talk to a counselor, but obviously that's part of the reason that we're here in the fall. Like I said, we talk to a lot of students that are feeling homesick, so counseling is available. A professor, anyone that you feel comfortable with, I would encourage the homesick students to talk to. The pastors are available as well. I know that the orientation leaders may also be a source. When we do training with the RAs and the orientation leaders at the beginning of the year, we say to the orientation leaders, now, just because orientation week is done doesn't necessarily mean that your job is done, because there may be students that feel connected to the orientation leaders and that may seek them out during the year. And so those might be resources. The RAs are resources. There's lots of opportunities, I think, for students to talk about homesickness. Or again, even if they're not talking directly about it, just opportunities to feel more connected.